We've got a swoon-worthy love story for you today. Let's jump in and tell us, what city are you watching from? Damian Blackwood had never believed in arranged dates. A successful man, the youngest billionaire in the U.S. real estate industry, who wouldn't want to introduce him to a promising candidate? Wealthy mothers continued to send lists of their daughters, beautiful, well-mannered, Ivy League graduates, hoping to catch his eye. Damian had only one rule: no arranged dates, no forced love. And yet tonight, here he was sitting in a chic rooftop bar in the middle of New York for a perfectly ridiculous reason, going on a blind date for a friend. You don't understand. If I stand her up, it'll be really embarrassing for her. Mark, Damian's best friend, had begged all afternoon. You just need to sit, have a drink, pretend to be me, say a few polite things, then find an excuse to slip out. Damian propped his forehead on his hand and sighed. He had never pretended to be anyone, much less lowered himself to act for a pointless date. But Mark looked at him like the whole world would collapse without this favor. In the end, Damian agreed to consider it as paying back a friendship debt. The rooftop glowed with warm, golden lights, and soft jazz drifted through the air. Damian walked in, wearing a perfectly tailored gray suit, and carried himself with cool, effortless confidence. Several women's eyes turned to him at once, but he didn't bother to notice. He gave the reservation list a quick glance and headed to the table. A woman was already seated there. No glittering evening gown, no pearls or designer bag like the women he usually met at events. She wore a simple navy dress, her brown hair neatly tied back, and makeup so light that it was almost natural. Her brown eyes were bright, deep, and watchful, as if anyone who sat across from her would be seen right through. Amelia Hart. She looked up and paused slightly when she saw him. Damian's brows also drew together a fraction. The two of them blurted out at the same time. You? An awkward silence flooded the space for a few seconds. Amelia cleared her throat and folded her hands on the table. Sorry, there must be some mix-up. I'm here to meet someone. Who isn't you? Damian arched a brow. Believe me, I didn't choose to be here either. I'm only here to help a friend. Help by pretending to go on a date? Amelia's voice was edged with sarcasm. How exceedingly gallant. At least I showed up instead of standing you up, Damian replied coolly. That says I'm someone who keeps his promises. Amelia laughed, shaking her head. No, that just says you have time to spare and an ego big enough to think you're doing a favor. Damian narrowed his eyes. It had been a long time since a woman had dared to talk to him like this. Usually people either flattered him or blushed and stammered in response. But she was different, and that different made him, unexpectedly, intrigued. They ordered drinks. Damian chose whiskey. Amelia ordered a mojito. She turned the glass in her hand and said quietly, So what's your name anyway? Or should I just call you the stand-in? Damian. Damian Blackwood, he answered curtly. Amelia nearly choked on her drink. She had seen that name in the business pages more than a few times. So you're the famously cold CEO. That makes sense now. No wonder you radiate that don't come near me energy. Damian tilted his head. And you? Amelia Hart. Interior designer. The income isn't much, but it keeps me afloat. Before you ask, no, I'm not looking for a sugar daddy. Damian froze for half a second, then let out a quiet chuckle. You certainly know how to make this blind date less dull, and you know how to turn it into a nightmare. Amelia shot back, unfazed by his cool smile. The air between them felt like a tennis match. Every line volleyed back and forth, sharp, with neither side willing to yield. While Amelia, annoyed, was thinking, how do I get out of this without being rude? Damian unexpectedly found himself listening. The way she talked about her work, about living in a tiny apartment, and fending for herself with demanding tenant projects, all of it reminded him of when he was first starting out. He was impressed, but he didn't say so. For Damian, showing emotion wasn't a habit. Amelia checked the time and stood. I think this is enough. Thanks for not leaving me sitting here alone, but I don't think we're a match to continue. Damian stood as well, sliding the chair neatly back in. Agreed, at least we can align on one thing. They exchanged one last look. Amelia's eyes held a challenge. Damien's remained cool, but it was hard to hide the flicker of interest there. Amelia Hart wasn't the type to let a blind date throw her off balance, but tonight, as she stepped out of the rooftop bar, she was angry, tired, and embarrassed. What a waste of time. A cold, arrogant CEO sitting across from her, only to prove he was smarter, richer, and busier than everyone else in the world. What a joke, she muttered as she dialed her best friend and coworker, Maya. Worst date of my life. Then come have drinks with me. Blow off steam. Forget that jerk, Maya urged excitedly on the other end. 15 minutes later, they were in another bar, louder this time, with neon lights flashing and electronic music pounding. Amelia decided to order 3 margaritas straight away, even though her tolerance for alcohol was never high. I swear, if I ever see him again, I'll throw this glass right in his face, Amelia fumed, raising her drink and gulping it down. Maya burst out laughing. I'd support that, but seriously, let it go. An arrogant CEO isn't worth your sleep. It didn't take long before the alcohol made Amelia lightheaded. On her way to the restroom, 2 men suddenly blocked her path. One, with slick-back hair and breath reeking of liquor, leaned close and whispered, "Come have some fun with us, gorgeous." Amelia frowned and tried to slip past. "Sorry, not interested." "Don't be so cold. You're way hotter than that doll sitting over there." The man grinned lewdly, his hand grabbing her arm. Amelia shoved him off, but the alcohol made her stumble. The world started spinning. The noise around her faded, replaced by a chilling sensation at the back of her neck. Then, darkness. She opened her eyes, wincing at the light seeping through heavy white curtains. A high ceiling, glass walls, and the hazy morning skyline of New York stretched out before her. This isn't my apartment," Amelia stammered. Her head throbbed like a drum. She sat up, pulling the blanket to her chest, and froze. She was wearing nothing but a large white men's shirt. The hem reached her thighs, carrying a faint blend of expensive detergent and masculine sandalwood. Oh God, no way!" Amelia clutched her head. Her eyes darted around. A sleek, modern penthouse minimalist, yet filled with luxury. Italian leather sofa, glass coffee table, abstract art on the wall. Everything screamed of immense wealth. The door opened. Amelia looked up, and her heart plummeted. "You!" she shouted. Damien Blackwood, in a half-buttoned black shirt, strolled in with a steaming cup of coffee. His tall frame, sharp features, and icy blue eyes carried the same disdain for the world as ever. Amelia instantly yanked the blanket tighter, her voice trembling. What did you do to me?" Damien raised a brow, setting the cup down casually, as though it were any ordinary Sunday morning. "Relax, Miss Hart. I don't lower myself to taking advantage of drunk women." "Then why am I wearing your shirt?" Amelia's eyes widened, pointing at the oversized garment. Damien's lips curved, half a smirk, half a tease. "Because your dress was beyond saving." Amelia bit her lip. "What do you mean?" "Literally, you threw up all over it. Your dress, your shoes, and my Armani coat." Damien said it lightly, as if reciting a financial report. "I had to deal with the situation." Amelia's face burned with shame and fury. You changed my clothes." Damien shrugged. "I tried not to look, but honestly, you're heavier than you seem. Carrying you to the bed was a battle." "Heavy?" Amelia shot upright, forgetting how short the shirt was. She quickly dropped back down, cheeks scarlet. "I do yoga 3 times a week." For the first time, Damien actually chuckled, and Amelia saw him looking less cold. "Well, last night you resembled a drunk sack of potatoes more than a yogi." "You arrogant jerk!" Amelia clutched the blanket tightly. "I didn't need your rescue." Damien stepped closer, his blue gaze lowering, studying her like an amusing puzzle. He leaned in, voice deep yet sharp. "Funny. Last night without me, you would have gone off with those 2 men, but today, I'm somehow the one you despise the most." Amelia's throat closed. She hated most of all that. He was right. "You do have a knack for causing me trouble," Damien added, picking up a pillow that had fallen and placing it back on the bed with calm indifference. Amelia glared, clutching the blanket tighter. And you have a knack for showing up in the moments I most want to disappear? Damien tilted his head, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Maybe it's fate. The words stuck in her throat, leaving her both flustered and furious. She wanted to scream, yet she couldn't ignore the strange quickening of her heartbeat. What an infuriating twist of fate. One disastrous blind date was bad enough. Now she was waking up in this man's penthouse, in his shirt, with nothing more humiliating imaginable. Amelia swore to herself, this is just an accident, just a man I'll never see again. She had no idea that the very next day when she walked into her new company, the man sitting at the very top with that infuriating half-smile would be none other than CEO Damien Blackwood, her direct boss. The next morning, Amelia Hart slipped into a simple cream-colored suit, her hair neatly pinned into a bun. She stood in front of the mirror and whispered to herself, Amelia, today is your first day at Blackwood Group. Nothing can ruin this. Nothing at all. Last night, waking up in a white shirt inside a luxurious penthouse had felt like a nightmare. She had sworn to erase Damien Blackwood from her memory. Yes, Damien, the arrogant CEO she had thought she would never have to see again. Today was a new beginning. The Blackwood Group building towered over Manhattan, its glass facade gleaming in the morning sun. Amelia took a deep breath and walked inside. The receptionist politely led her up to the 28th floor to the main conference room. Passing by sharply dressed employees, she felt curious glances cast her way. Amelia kept her posture straight, exuding quiet confidence. But when the doors to the conference room opened, her confidence faltered. Seated at the head of the table, tall, imposing in a tailored gray suit, icy eyes fixed directly on her, was none other than Damien Blackwood. Amelia froze, her legs threatening to retreat. Impossible. She couldn't be this unlucky. Damien looked up, a flicker of recognition flashing in his eyes. But instead of surprise, his lips curved faintly, as if this was amusing. Ms. Hart, welcome to Blackwood Group. His deep, even voice carried through the room. Amelia clenched her teeth. The jerk. He remembers everything. One by one, the employees filled the seats. A professional air settled over the room. Damien began leading the strategic meeting for their new project, an exclusive luxury resort that the Blackwood Group was spearheading. Amelia tried to focus on the packet in front of her, but Damien's occasional glance in her direction made her skin prickle. It wasn't the usual professional assessment, it was more like subtle teasing. When it came time to introduce new staff, the HR director gestured to her. This is Amelia Hart. She will be in charge of interior design for Project Elysium. Amelia gave a polite smile, keeping her voice steady. I'm honored to be working with you all. The room nodded approvingly, with a few light claps. Only Damien's lips quirked briefly, as if to say, let's see how you handle working in my battlefield. The meeting lasted nearly an hour, with discussions on design concepts and task allocations. Amelia scribbled notes nonstop, determined to project absolute professionalism, but fate seemed intent on mocking her. As she leaned down to write, her pen slipped from her hand, rolling all the way to the head of the table, right to Damien. No, 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 not now! The tiny clatter echoed in the quiet room. A few heads turned. Amelia bent quickly to retrieve it, but Damien was faster. He leaned forward, picked it up, twirled it lightly between his long fingers, then handed it back. His eyes locked with hers, his voice lowered so only she could hear. I'm rather used to picking things up for you. Heat rushed to Amelia's face. Memories of the penthouse flashed in her mind, her staggering in his shirt, and now in the boardroom, she was once again the clumsy one in front of the CEO. She gripped the pen tightly, muttering through clenched teeth, Say one more word and I'll hand in my resignation today. Damien raised a brow, the faintest smile ghosting across his lips. Then he leaned back in his chair and resumed the meeting as if nothing had happened. But his blue eyes still sparkled with hidden amusement. When the session ended, people filed out one by one. Amelia gathered her papers, desperate to vanish. But before she could leave, Damien's voice cut through the air. Ms. Hart, stay a moment. She froze, then turned, wary. What is it, sir? Damien rose and walked toward her, stopping just a few steps away. I just wanted to remind you, don't worry too much. Here we judge competence, not bar mishaps. Amelia's face burned crimson. You, she sputtered, but Damien had already turned away, picking up a file, ending the exchange as casually as if he had commented on the weather. The door shut behind him. Amelia bit her lip, torn between fury and turmoil. Half of her longed to keep as far away from this arrogant CEO as possible. But the other half couldn't deny that every time his eyes met hers, her heart beat faster than it should. Inside Blackwood Group, the interior design department was known as the creative heart of the company. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls let in natural light, while desks were piled with sketches, wood samples, stone tiles, and fabric swatches. Stepping into that space in her second week, Amelia thought to herself, this is the real battlefield, not those boardrooms full of judgmental stares. What she didn't know was that, starting today, the battlefield would gain another formidable opponent, Damien Blackwood. On Monday morning, Amelia was absorbed in a design draft for the Elysium Hotel lobby when the tall, familiar figure appeared at the door. Damien, hands in his pockets, eyes sharp, scanned every detail of her drawings. Ms. Hart, his deep voice carried evenly, I want to see your concept. Amelia looked up, her tone sharper than intended. This isn't a homework check. But I'm the CEO, Damien shrugged, which means I can check whenever I like. Taking a deep breath, Amelia handed over the sketches. He studied them silently, brows furrowing for a brief moment. She stood there, half anxious, half annoyed. At last, Damien tapped the page with his pen. The concept isn't bad, but the color palette is too safe. I want something bolder. Hands on her hips, Amelia shot back. If everything is bold, the hotel will end up looking like a nightclub. A flicker of amusement lit Damien's blue eyes. Tilting his head, he lowered his voice just enough for her to hear. I like the way you push back, but don't forget, if your idea fails, the entire project collapses. Amelia's lips curled in defiance. Then I hope you enjoy surprises. From that day on, Damien showed up in the design room so often that co-workers whispered, does the CEO really have this much free time? Only Amelia knew the truth. He wasn't free. He simply liked challenging her. Every time she worked on a model, he stepped in to point out areas for improvement. This glass wall faces the wrong direction for natural light. Amelia countered instantly. If we change it, the afternoon sun will blind the guests. I want impact, not safety. And I want guests who stay, not guests who run off squinting. These verbal duels became routine. Colleagues pretended to focus on their own tasks, but secretly enjoyed the spectacle. One afternoon, Amelia accidentally knocked over a box of stone samples. They clattered across the floor. She dropped to her knees to gather them, only for another hand to reach at the same time. Their hands touched. Amelia startled, looking up into Damien's eyes. He handed her a piece of stone, lips curving slightly. Seems I'm getting used to picking things up for you. Her cheeks flushed. She snatched it back, stammering, you don't have to tease me every time. I'm not teasing. Damien straightened, adjusting his cufflinks. I'm just stating facts. Day by day, Amelia noticed her heart rate spike every time Damien entered the room. He was too cold, too arrogant, but his words carried weight. And whenever he leaned in to point out a detail, his breath so close her focus wavered. Another time, while reviewing a 3D model together, Amelia gestured too widely and knocked over her coffee. The liquid spread dangerously close to Damien's gray suit. Oh God, I'm so sorry! Amelia panicked, scrambling to wipe up the mess. Damien stepped back just in time, raising a brow. Do you plan to destroy everything around me? Amelia shot him a sideways glance, forcing a weak laugh. It's just, you distract me when you're here. The words slipped out before she realized. Both froze. Amelia flushed crimson, ducking to mop the spill. Damien, caught off guard, paused, then his lips quirked, as though he'd just heard a confession he liked. Late one evening, after everyone had left, Amelia stayed behind to refine her sketches. Damien walked over, resting a hand on the back of her chair. You may be new, but I'll admit one thing. His voice was low, deliberate. You have a kind of creativity rare in this company. Amelia looked up, meeting his gaze. For once, his eyes weren't cold but sincere. She gave a faint smile and instead of arguing, simply said, "Then I hope I'll keep being a nuisance to you." Damien let out a quiet laugh before turning away. As he left the room, Amelia sat motionless, her heart pounding. Perhaps, amidst the sparring and sarcasm, something more dangerous was taking root. Attraction. The Blackwood Group tower loomed over Manhattan, its lights blazing from base to spire, like a beacon of steel and glass. That night, Amelia Hart sat alone in the design studio, staring at her unfinished sketches. Her eyes stung not from fatigue, but from a quiet hollowness gnawing inside. She folded her papers and took the elevator to the rooftop. Up there, the world was hushed, no clattering keyboards, no ringing phones. Only the cool night wind and the endless glow of the city stretched out below. Leaning against the railing, Amelia closed her eyes, letting the breeze wash over her. She needed an escape. All the curious stares and hushed whispers about the CEO's special attention toward her drained her. Yet what unsettled her most was herself. Why did her heart race every time she saw Damien? "I knew I'd find you here." Amelia jerked around. Damien Blackwood stood by the steel door, his sleeves rolled up on a crisp white shirt, no tie, and a jacket slung over his arm. The wind ruffled his hair, softening his usual severity and revealing a rare, unguarded side. "Are you following me?" Amelia pressed one hand against the railing, masking her unease. "This is my building," Damien replied, lips curving faintly. "You're the intruder." Amelia scoffed. "How ridiculous. Is spying on colleagues part of a CEO's hobby list?" He didn't answer, simply came closer, resting his hand on the railing beside her. His breath mingled with the night air, carrying that familiar trace of sandalwood. Silence lingered, broken only by the distant hum of traffic and blinking city lights. Then Damien spoke, his voice low and rough. "I come here when I can't sleep." Amelia blinked, surprised. Is he the man she thought only lived by spreadsheets and contracts, sleepless? He stared into the distance, words flat but weighted, as if replaying an old memory. "I lost my mother when I was 8. My father wasn't the gentle type. His every word was law. From the start, I was taught emotions were a weakness, a luxury." Amelia stayed quiet, her chest tightening. The wind tangled through her hair as she listened. Damien continued, "I built Blackwood Group on his foundation. Success, power, money, all to prove I was never less than him. Yet sometimes, amid the champagne parties and million-dollar deals, I realize I'm still that 10-year-old boy, desperate for his father's approval." His blue eyes, usually cold, now carried a rare, weary shadow. Amelia didn't mock, didn't retort. She simply sighed softly. "Maybe that's why you always look like you're at war with the world." Damien turned toward her, caught off guard by her tone. No scorn, no ridicule, only understanding. Amelia twisted the thin silver ring on her finger, the cheap piece she always wore. Looking down at the city, she spoke. "I once had a 4-year relationship. I thought I'd marry him, get a little apartment, raise a dog, and live quietly. Then one day I found out he was cheating with a colleague of mine." Her voice wavered. "I left Manchester for New York. I thought a new city would mean a new life. But every time I design a double bedroom, I remember that broken dream." Damien studied her, the sharpness in his gaze softening. Behind her strength, she carried shards of her own. "I suppose he wasn't worthy," Damien murmured. Amelia let out a laugh, though tears shimmered at the corners of her eyes. "He wasn't. But the worst part wasn't losing him. I was losing faith in myself. I chose the wrong man." Damien adjusted the railing with one hand, as if searching for words. Finally, he said quietly, "Choosing wrong once doesn't mean forever." They stood side by side in silence, no longer CEO and stubborn employee, but two wounded souls, one scarred by a loveless childhood, the other by betrayal. Amelia smiled faintly. "Never thought I'd have a serious conversation with you on a rooftop. Honestly, I thought if we ever met again, I'd throw coffee in your face." Damien raised a brow, lips curving. "The opportunity's still there, Ms. Hart. But I warn you, this suit wasn't cheap. Amelia burst into laughter. The sound carried on the night wind, breaking through the tension. Damien watched her, realizing her smile was more powerful than any design she could create. A gust swept over, making Amelia shiver. Without a word, Damien draped his jacket around her shoulders. I don't need this, she protested softly. Consider it maintaining my employees' productivity, he replied flatly. She pressed her lips together but didn't shrug it off. The warmth of the fabric seeped into her, oddly comforting. They stood together, eyes on the glittering skyline. Words weren't needed. Both understood they had just seen each other not as adversaries, but as people who knew pain. Before leaving the rooftop, Damien's voice dropped low. Ms. Hart, next time, don't drink yourself into needing someone to carry you. I can't guarantee I'll always be there. Amelia shot him a sideways glare, though her lips curved. And I guarantee next time you won't get the chance to call me a drunk sack of potatoes. Damien chuckled softly. For the first time it was genuine, not his usual cold smirk. The rooftop door shut behind them, but the secrets they had shared remained, weaving an invisible thread that drew them closer. Chapter 6. Ghosts from the Past. Thursday morning, just as Amelia stepped into the Blackwood Group tower, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her heart clenched. Ethan Cole, the name she had tried to erase but whose shadow lingered. Ethan, the man she had loved for 4 years, the one who shattered her dream of a small home and a puppy. Amelia hesitated for a moment, then declined the call. But inside, the waves were already stirring. At lunch, as she stepped out of the elevator, a familiar voice stopped her. Amelia. She turned. Ethan stood there in a navy suit, holding a bouquet of red roses, that same gentle smile she had once adored. What are you doing here? Amelia instinctively stepped back. Ethan's voice softened, eyes almost pleading. I came to see you, to ask for your forgiveness. His old words came rushing back. I'm sorry, it was just a mistake. It meant nothing, but the memory of the night she discovered his betrayal could never be erased. Amelia bit her lip. Ethan, I don't want... He cut her off, thrusting the bouquet toward her. I know you're angry, but I never stopped loving you. Please give me another chance. Amelia faltered, about to refuse, when a familiar voice echoed down the hall. What's going on here? Damien Blackwood, tall, imposing, cold. His piercing blue eyes swept over Amelia, then fixed on the bouquet in Ethan's hand. In that instant, no words were needed. It was clear, this man wasn't just some acquaintance from her past. Amelia hurried to speak. It's not what you think. But Damien had already turned, his voice calm, unreadable. Ms. Hart, I expect the new sketches later today. Don't keep me waiting. Her fists clenched. His eyes weren't angry nor indifferent. They carried something sharper, an edge of suspicion and disappointment. Ethan frowned. Who was that? My boss. Amelia's answer was curt. She strode toward the elevator, leaving Ethan and his bouquet behind. That afternoon, Damien entered the design room. He stood silently behind her, watching her sketch for so long that it made her chest tighten. This glass wall... Good, he finally said, voice lower, less cutting than usual. Amelia blinked in surprise. Did you just compliment me? He shrugged, gaze impossible to read. Don't be shocked. I'll compliment you more if you focus rather than let your personal life get in the way. Amelia stiffened. She knew exactly what he meant. But before she could explain, he was gone, leaving only the faint trace of sandalwood and a heavy silence in his wake. That night, Amelia sat in her small Brooklyn apartment, staring at the roses Ethan had sent to her doorstep. She hadn't opened the card. She didn't want to read a single word, yet her chest churned. Why now? Why reappear now? Her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. I won't give up. You're my only love. Amelia dropped the phone, burying her head in her hands. She knew she would never go back, but the past had resurfaced, clawing at wounds that had never fully healed. Worse, Damien's gaze now carried doubt. The next evening, Amelia worked late. As she left the building, she saw Damien exiting too. He paused briefly, then extended an umbrella to her. It's going to rain. Take this. She froze, looking up at him. His eyes were still cold, but beneath the surface, she sensed a quiet care. "Thank you," she murmured. Damien gave a slight nod and walked away. Amelia stood there clutching the umbrella, heart aching. She wanted to shout, "The man with the roses doesn't matter anymore. The one I care about is you." But the words stayed trapped in her chest. The rain began to fall, tapping against the awning above. Amelia stood beneath it, gripping Damien's umbrella. She knew then between them stood a new wall, a ghost from her past. And when she thought of Damien's probing, disappointed eyes, she realized, if she didn't explain, she might lose him before they had even had the chance to begin. Chapter 7. The Gala Storm. The Elysium Launch Gala was held at the Metropole Hotel, where crystal chandeliers sparkled from the high ceiling, a string quartet played softly in the corner, and glasses of red wine glimmered in the hands of the city's elite. It was Blackwood Group's biggest event of the year, unveiling the design and master plan for the luxury resort hailed as Damien Blackwood's crown jewel. Amelia Hart had prepared for weeks for this moment. She wore a simple yet elegant black off-shoulder gown, her hair falling in loose curls. Her eyes shone with the confidence of a designer who had finally stepped out of her past shadow, ready to stand before hundreds of investors, journalists, and partners. Damien, as always, exuded power. In a deep navy suit, silk tie perfectly knotted, he commanded the room. Each word of his presentation silenced the hall, every investor hanging on his voice. From the back of the stage, Amelia watched. Though she would never admit it aloud, pride swelled in her chest. He wasn't just an arrogant CEO, he was truly a leader. Everything was going smoothly until a voice cut through the elegant air like glass shattering. "Amelia is mine." The music stopped. Conversations died. All eyes turned toward the entrance. Ethan Cole strode in, face flushed from alcohol, clutching a bouquet of white roses. Amelia froze. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" Her voice, sharp with panic, echoed across the whispering crowd. Ethan's chest rose and fell as he moved further into the room. "You can't just leave me. Everyone here needs to know you belong to me, and only me." Gasps rippled through the guests. "Amelia, the designer on the team? Is she connected to the CEO?" Damien stood still, eyes like ice, gaze slicing through the chaos until it landed on Amelia. Only a week ago, she had shared her broken past with him under the rooftop stars. Now another man was claiming her in front of hundreds of people. Amelia's fists clenched, her face pale. She forced the words out, steady and sharp. "Ethan, stop. I don't belong to you." And she turned her back, walking out of the ballroom as whispers erupted. Damien shifted as if to follow, but stopped. A thought gnawed at him. Had she really left the past behind? In the empty hotel corridor, Amelia's heels clicked against the marble, her chest tightening. But Ethan caught up quickly. "Amelia, wait!" He grabbed her wrist. She yanked free, glaring. "You're drunk. Go home." "I never stopped loving you." His grip tightened, the bouquet slipping to the floor, petals scattering. "You still love me, too. Say it." Amelia opened her mouth to shout when a familiar baritone cut in. "Ms. Hart, we have an urgent meeting now." Damien appeared calm, but with a lethal edge in his gaze. He placed a steady hand on Amelia's back, pulling her out of Ethan's reach. "If you harass my employee again, you'll be speaking with my lawyers," Damien said flatly, steering Amelia away. Her heart pounded wildly. She wanted to use this moment to explain that Ethan meant nothing, that she had rejected him over and over. But when they stopped at the elevator, Damien let her go. "Damien, let me explain." His blue eyes turned cold and sharp. "Don't! Your personal life doesn't concern me." Amelia froze. The elevator doors slid open. Damien stepped inside without looking back. The doors closed, leaving her standing alone in the corridor. Numb. Why won't he let me explain? Why does he think I'm still tied to Ethan? From that night on, the Blackwood Group changed. Damien stopped visiting the design floor on a daily basis. He sent instructions through clipped emails. In meetings, his eyes barely flicked over Amelia before moving on, stripped of their usual teasing spark. Amelia, too, avoided him. She buried herself in sketches and material checks, determined to prove her professionalism. But every glimpse of his tall frame tightened her chest. Once, stepping into the elevator, She found him already there. The silence was suffocating. Floor by floor ticked by. Neither spoke. Neither dared to meet the other's eyes. That evening, Amelia sat in her Brooklyn apartment, gazing out the window at the city lights. One question circled endlessly. Why does this feel like such a loss? Elsewhere in his penthouse, Damien poured himself a glass of whiskey. The city lights flickered in his eyes as he recalled her rooftop smile, the way her voice trembled when she confessed her past, her strength, her fire. But Ethan's drunken declaration, the bouquet of roses, the public claim that those images clung like shadows. Perhaps she hasn't let go after all, Damien thought, sipping his drink. And so instead of drawing closer, they drifted apart, two hearts aching in silence, separated by misunderstanding and unspoken words. Still following the story? If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home, to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. Amelia Hart knew she couldn't let the past hover any longer. Since the gala, Ethan had been relentless with calls, messages, and red roses sent to her office like an unwelcome reminder. She had ignored them, but the more she tried, the louder the past grew. If she didn't cut it clean, she'd be trapped forever. That afternoon, Amelia arranged to meet Ethan at a small cafe on the corner. Outside, summer rain sprinkled against the thick glass like scattered sugar. She arrived 10 minutes early, took a seat by the window, clutching a latte so tightly her palms dampened with sweat. Ethan walked in with that same familiar smile that once melted her. Navy suit pressed, hair slicked neatly, as if time had stolen nothing from him. He sat down uninvited, just as he always had. "Thank you for coming, Amelia." His voice carried hope. "I know I went too far at the gala, but I only wanted everyone to understand that I didn't come to hear old lines," Amelia cut him off, meeting his eyes. "I came to end this, once and for all." His smile cracked. "Say it then." Amelia drew a breath, words she had sharpened over sleepless nights finally finding release. "I don't love you anymore, and I won't let you ruin my life again." The cafe's hum seemed to hush. The clink of a spoon at the next table rang out like a bell. Ethan's eyes widened, then softened into pleading. "Amelia, it was just one mistake. I've apologized. I love you. I always have quotation marks." "Ethan," her voice gentled but stayed firm, "if you love me, respect my decision. I left Manchester because of betrayal. I'm not walking that road again." She stood, picking up her bag. Ethan grabbed her hand instinctively. "No, you're just angry. I know you still—" "Let go." Amelia's voice was low, clear, and final. "I've decided." At that exact moment, outside the rain-speckled glass, a black sedan pulled up. A tall figure stepped into the downpour. Damien Blackwood. By chance, his eyes lifted and he saw it. Ethan gripping Amelia's hand, her face turned toward him. Damien couldn't hear the words, only the frozen image. A man begging, a woman not pulling away. His gaze darkened, not with fury, not with melodrama, but with a deep, cold disappointment. He looked away, tugged his collar against the rain, and walked into the storm until the curtain of water swallowed him. Amelia caught the motion out of the corner of her eye. She spun, but Damien's broad back had already vanished, her chest clenched. "Damien!" Her breath hitched as she ripped her hand from Ethan's grasp. He misunderstood. "Who? Your CEO?" Ethan's voice sharpened with jealousy. "So it's true." "Don't!" Amelia cut him off, eyes blazing. "This is my choice." She left him there, his voice drowned by the heavy rain. The chill whipped her face and her dress clung to her, becoming soaked in seconds. But Amelia didn't feel cold. She felt urgency and an unstoppable pull. If she let the night pass, the distance would harden into walls. Manhattan's streets blurred under rain, car lights streaking into ribbons across the slick asphalt. Amelia ran, flagged a taxi, jumped out mid-block when traffic froze, and sprinted down the sidewalk. Each step pounded in rhythm with her heart. Explain. Tell him. Don't let him slip away. The penthouse lobby felt like another world, with polished marble, warm lighting, and the scent of sandalwood in the air. The guards stared wide-eyed at her, hair plastered, mascara smudged, dress dripping. Ms. Hart, do you need? I need to see Damian Blackwood, she said, voice trembling yet firm. Now, please. Something in her eyes silenced the guard's hesitation. The private elevator lit up. Inside, Amelia leaned against the wall, knuckles white around her bag. One thought circled relentlessly. Don't let him believe I chose the past. Ding! The doors slid open onto the top floor. Plush, navy carpet, silent halls. Amelia strode to the last door and pressed the bell. No answer. She pressed again. 3 seconds dragged like years. The door opened. Damien stood there, white shirt sleeves rolled up, raindrops still glistening on his forearm. Light caught his sharp cheekbones, his eyes sweeping over her drenched figure, hair dripping, shoulders trembling. Surprise flickered, then steadied into composure. Amelia! She stepped inside. The door shut. Rain thundered against the glass beyond. She lifted her chin, speaking louder than the storm. I didn't choose him. I choose you. The room went still, holding its breath. Damien didn't move. A beat. 2. His eyes shifted, breaking slightly at the corners. Say it again, he rasped, voice raw with something he'd never shown before hope. Amelia stepped closer, droplets falling to the hardwood. She laid it bare. I met Ethan to end it. I said no. He grabbed my hand the moment you walked past. I don't love him. The man I want is you, Damien. I choose you. The words dropped heavy but warm. Damien inhaled sharply, as if finally allowed to breathe. He set his glass aside, crossed the space slowly, eyes locked on hers. I thought I lost you the moment I dared to imagine you could ever be mine, he admitted hoarsely. I was afraid. Tears mixed with Amelia's laugh. Clumsy words from a man who had been taught that emotions were weakness, but it was their very clumsiness that pierced her. Then don't make me scream in the rain again, she whispered. Believe me. The space between them dissolved. Damien pulled her into his arms, holding her tight as if to shield her from every storm outside. His warmth seeped into her, his scent grounding her. The kiss came unannounced, fierce, trembling, desperate, as though every restraint had shattered at once. Thunder rolled outside. Hearts thundered inside. Amelia rose on her toes, arms circling his neck, answering with certainty. This was her choice. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Damien searched her eyes. A faint smile tugged his lips. Then suddenly he swept her off her feet. Hey, put me down, I can walk, she yelped, face blazing. Striding across the foyer, his voice rumbled, laced with teasing. Number, I'll carry you. My sack of potatoes. He glanced down, mischief glinting in his eyes. Much lighter sober. I was never a sack of potatoes, she shot back, glaring. Right, perfect weight, fits just right. The rain hammered the glass as if applauding. Damien nudged the door closed with his shoulder, carrying her into the warm glow of the living room. Drops trailed from her dress, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the rhythm of 2 hearts finally aligned. He set her gently onto the soft sofa near the fireplace, then grabbed a thick towel, carefully drying each strand of her wet hair. Don't move. What if you slip again? You're just taking advantage to boss me around. Amelia pouted, but her eyes twinkled. No, he murmured, dabbing the last droplet at her temple. I'm protecting Blackwood Group's most priceless asset. Oh? The priceless asset you once called a sack of potatoes? From now on, that nickname's private property. His eyes gleamed. Mine alone. He handed her a fresh towel and his oversized white shirt. This time you wear it by choice, not accident. I'll wait. When she returned, hair wrapped, shirt draped softly on her frame, Damien had 2 mugs of hot cocoa ready. No whiskey, no wine. Just cocoa, sweet and warm, wordlessly apologetic. They sat by the glass wall, rain drumming a steady beat outside. No chatter, just the touch of fingers threading together. Silence was no longer distance. It was a bridge. Tomorrow we'll face the same things, Damien admitted hesitantly. Work, gossip, even your past. Amelia squeezed his hand. The past is past. I'll say it to anyone who asks. As for work, we'll continue to do what we always do. Only one thing changes. What's that? When I drop my pen, you'll still pick it up, but no more sarcasm. Damien chuckled, shaking his head. No promises. Damien! Kidding. He pulled her against his shoulder, whispering, I'll pick it up, and I won't let go. The storm thinned. The city, washed clean, glowed like silk stretched across the river. Amelia nestled against him, hearing his heartbeat fall into rhythm with hers. And she understood. The man who had been taught feelings were weakness was finally learning to say the hardest words in his own way through open doors, a white shirt, hot cocoa, and a hand that never retreated. That night, no vows were needed. Just one promise hung between them. I choose you. And its answer, rough but true, I'm afraid of losing you. Outside, the last drops fell, breaking into tiny marks before fading. Inside, two souls who had wandered lost had finally stopped under the same roof together. From the night of rain onward, everything changed quietly, but unmistakably. There were no grand declarations, no official labels. Just the simple reality that when Amelia walked into the office, Damien was already there, flipping through files with a second cup of coffee waiting beside him. She would smile and pick it up as if it had always been hers. Damien no longer kept the same frosty distance. He wasn't suddenly talkative, but whenever his gaze brushed over Amelia, there was something softer, warmer, like the icy wind at the top of the tower had finally let a ray of sun break through. Over the next weeks, they threw themselves into Elysium Towers. The deeper they worked, the more undeniable their synergy became. Amelia proposed ideas. Damien sharpened the details. Damien charted direction. Amelia brought it to life. One afternoon, when Amelia hesitated between two options during a team meeting, Damien cleared his throat. Go with whichever one you believe is right. That small phrase you believe made heads swivel, curious smiles spreading. To Damien, it was nothing unusual, but Amelia felt her heart leap before she firmly made her choice. The project began to rise not just as a building, but as a symbol of rebirth. As Amelia looked at the model lit from within, sunlight spilling through its glass walls, she thought, this is us, broken once, scarred, but when put together, we found a way to stand again, stronger and more beautiful than before. Rumors started spreading through the company. Glances, half smiles, and hushed voices followed whenever the CEO appeared in the design room, longer than necessary, his steps always lingering at one desk in particular. I swear, Damien only treats Amelia differently. Did you see the way he handed her that coffee? Like something out of a romance movie? Amelia overheard snippets, her cheeks blazing red as she hid behind her screen. Maya, of course, never let her off the hook. One afternoon during break, Maya plunked a bubble tea onto Amelia's desk and sang out, morning coffee, afternoon bubble tea. So when's the candlelit dinner? Maya! Amelia nearly choked. Just then Damien walked in. Catching the tail end, he frowned. What's all the noise about? Nothing, Amelia flailed. Maya, unrepentant, smirked and whistled. Boss, are you free tonight? I know a little Italian place that's perfect for couples. The room erupted in laughter. Damien didn't respond, just cast Maya a brief look before his eyes lingered on Amelia a moment longer than usual. Enough to make her cheeks flame. Back to work, he said smoothly, though the corner of his lips curved almost imperceptibly. As the deadline loomed, the team worked through endless nights. Sketches, laptops, empty coffee cups piled high. Amelia drooped over her desk, eyes burning. Then something warm draped over her shoulders. She looked up. Damien stood there, report in hand, gaze fixed away. Rest. No one expects you to drive yourself this hard. But I want it to be perfect, Amelia whispered, voice hoarse. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Fine. But remember, you have to keep your strength. I won't watch you collapse over a project. Even Elysium. The words were steady, almost casual, but to Amelia they landed like a confession. Her heart skipped, and for once it wasn't from exhaustion. On launch day, the entire company burst into applause as the presentation screen lit up with the rotating model of Elysium Towers. The press hailed it as a masterpiece of rebirth, a structure not built merely of glass and steel, but of resilience and hope. Amelia clapped with her colleagues, but across the hall, when the golden lights swept over the crowd, She caught Damien's gaze locked on her, just for a second. Yet in that second she knew. Their love was Elysium itself, proof that from ruins, something new could rise brilliant and enduring. After the ceremony, Maya tugged Amelia's arm, whispering with a grin, "Told you, the architecture's stunning, sure, but the real masterpiece is the office romance." "Maya!" Amelia hissed, mortified, though a laugh slipped free. Damien walked past just then, casting a sidelong glance. Amelia turned away, but she didn't miss the quiet curve of his lips. In that moment, she realized professionalism could remain on the surface. But in the morning, coffee set out, in the unspoken trust, in the glances that lingered, they all knew. Elysium Towers wasn't just Blackwood Group's project. It was theirs, rebuilt together. The news broke on a Monday morning. The moment Amelia stepped into the Blackwood Group offices, the glances turned different, curious, skeptical, and edged with mockery. She opened her phone. Red headlines screamed, "Blackwood Group's rising designer. Success by beauty, not skill." Secret affair between CEO Damien Blackwood and his protege raises questions around Elysium Towers. Amelia Hart muse in the shadows or opportunist in the spotlight? Her chest tightened. The article cited a close source claiming she had risen only because of a personal relationship with Damien. Photos showed them leaving the building together, coffee cups exchanged in the morning, all framed with venomous captions. And at the bottom, one name leapt out like a dagger: Ethan Cole, providing insider information to let the truth be known. Amelia's knees nearly gave out. The rumors spread like wildfire through the company. A few younger employees muttered by the water cooler, "I always wondered how she landed such a big project so fast." Exactly. Most people wait 5 years for that kind of chance. Amelia bit her lip, trying to steady her shaking hands on the mouse. She couldn't even click. Maya stormed over, slamming a cup of tea onto her desk. "Don't you dare let this get to you. Everyone who matters knows how hard you've worked. It's trash gossip." "But the press doesn't care about truth, Maya." Amelia's voice cracked. "They only want a scandal." Maya gripped her hand. "Then let the truth speak louder." That afternoon, Blackwood Group hosted a scheduled press briefing on Elysium Towers. What should have been a progress update turned into chaos as the media tripled in numbers. Microphones thrust forward, cameras flashing like lightning. Amelia sat in the back row, her heart hammering. She had never been so afraid. One reporter's voice cut through, "Mr. Blackwood, rumors claim Elysium Towers' success is built not on merit, but on personal relations. How do you respond?" The tension snapped taut. Flashes blinded the stage. Amelia's nails dug into her palms. At the center of the table, Damien lifted his head. Calm face. Blade-sharp eyes. He didn't flinch. Slowly he rose and pulled the microphone closer. "I'll be direct," his voice rang steady. "Amelia Hart does not need anyone to justify her place here." The murmurs quieted. He went on. "For those who doubt, look at Elysium Towers. Every line, every idea, every sketch bears her mark. If Blackwood Group presents a masterpiece of rebirth today, then its soul is Amelia Hart." He paused, voice dropping like a hammer. "Do not measure a woman by cheap gossip. Judge her by her work. And I state clearly, no one can deny her talent or her dedication." The room froze. Only the relentless click of cameras filled the silence. Amelia sat stunned. Tears welled, spilling hot down her cheeks. She had never heard Damien speak so much, let alone reveal such conviction. In front of the world, he hadn't shielded her in shadows, he had raised her into the light. Maya leaned close, whispering through a trembling grin, "See? You didn't need proof. The whole world just heard him call you the soul of Blackwood Group." Amelia laughed through her tears. By evening, headlines shifted. CEO Damien Blackwood shuts down rumors, champions young designers' talent. Amelia Hart from scandal to the soul of Elysium Towers. Outside the conference hall, Amelia wiped her eyes in the corridor. Damien approached, offering a handkerchief. "Thank you," she whispered, voice thick. He met her gaze. No teasing glint, no icy wall, only a profound sincerity. "I only spoke the truth, and I'll never let anyone tarnish you with their filth again." Amelia broke. She collapsed into his chest, sobbing, and he wrapped his arms tightly around her. People passed, but it didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was this. Their trust had been tested by fire and come out unshakable. The most prestigious architecture awards of the year were held at a Grand Manhattan hotel. The ballroom glittered, gilded from floor to ceiling, crystal chandeliers scattering light into misty ribbons. Giants of the industry, architects, designers, and investors sat shoulder to shoulder, gowns and tuxedos, turning the hall into a shimmering sea. Amelia sat among the honored guests, heart pounding. She wore a simple navy gown, elegant and understated, her hair tied in a neat low bun. Tonight, Elysium Towers was nominated for Project of the Year. Just a year ago, Amelia Hart was an unknown name. Now every spotlight shone her way. Beside her, Damien looked effortlessly composed in a black tuxedo. He didn't speak much, only leaned closer to murmur, "Breathe. Tonight is yours." Amelia gave a nervous smile, whispering back, "Ours." The host read through the nominations. The ballroom fell silent, breath held tight. When the envelope tore open, the words came like a surge. "And the Project of the Year award goes to Elysium Towers, Blackwood Group." Music soared. The Blackwood team leapt up, hugging, cheering, their shouts drowning out the speakers. Amelia felt dizzy, her legs trembling. Maya shrieked, "Go, get up there!" Damien turned to her, hand extended. Amelia placed hers in his. His grip was steady, pulling her step by step toward the spotlight. The crystal trophy gleamed under the lights. The host handed it to Damien, but instead of lifting it high, he looked at Amelia and placed it firmly in her hands. "The one who deserves this most is her," Damien declared, his voice echoing across the hall. Thunderous applause erupted. Amelia flushed crimson, heart nearly leaping from her chest. She whispered desperately, "Damien, don't—" But he wasn't joking. Damien took the microphone, stepping forward, his features sharpened in the glow. His blue eyes burned with a rare resolve. "I know tonight is meant for architecture, for achievement, but I can't ignore what matters most. Amelia Hart is not only the person I trust above all in my work." He paused and the hall hushed. "She is also the woman I love." The ballroom exploded. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed like fireworks. Journalists shouted. Maya screamed from the crowd as though rooting for a championship match. Amelia stood frozen, ears ringing. Never had she imagined Damien, cold, reserved, a man no one believed had a soft heart, would proclaim 3 words so boldly before hundreds. She turned to him, tears blurring her vision. Damien bent close, voice low just for her. "I don't want anyone to doubt you again. I want the whole world to know." Amelia laughed through her tears. Joy flooded her so overwhelmingly that it felt unreal. She clutched the trophy tight, her other hand clasping Damien's. The audience's applause rolled on, some even chanting their names. Cameras captured the moment, the cold CEO and the young designer gazing at each other beneath the blaze of victory. The next day's headlines blared, "Damien Blackwood declares his love at the Architecture Awards." Elysium Towers, a masterpiece of design and a love story. But for Amelia, it wasn't about headlines. It was that one moment on stage, his eyes on hers, saying, "The woman I love." In the car ride back, the city lights glittered outside. Amelia rested against Damien's shoulder, murmuring, "You know you just caused an earthquake in the media, right?" Damien chuckled, squeezing her hand. "I know, and I don't regret it." Amelia smiled through the remnants of tears. "I've never been this happy." The car glided through the glowing streets. Inside, their hands stayed intertwined. Outside, the whole world had just become witness to a love declared bold, public, and unshakable. 6 months had passed since that night on stage when Damien said the words, "The woman I love." New York had changed seasons, and Elysium Towers was now alive, its halls echoing with engagements, anniversaries, and toasts almost every evening. For Blackwood Group, it was the crown jewel. For Amelia Hart, it was a mirror of herself, once riddled with doubt, now the creative director leading her own team. That morning, Amelia woke early, as had become her habit. The penthouse above the city was quiet, sunlight slipping through the curtains and casting a golden glow across the wooden floor. She stretched, Damien's oversized white shirt falling loosely around her frame. The scent of sandalwood and clean cotton clung to the fabric. She laughed softly, thinking about that shirt. First worn out of chaos, worn countless times since out of love. Barefoot, she padded to the glass wall, gazing down at streets flowing like rivers of silver. The coffee machine dripped rhythmically, like the overture to a familiar song. She poured herself a cup, savoring the warmth sliding down her throat. Her phone buzzed. Maya sent a photo of mood boards. Meeting this afternoon, boss. P.S. Did someone already set out your coffee? Amelia rolled her eyes, sending back an emoji glare. She hadn't even put her phone down before the sound of the balcony door opening reached her. Damien walked in from his morning run in a gray tee, black joggers, and hair tousled by the wind. He stopped for just a moment, taking her in. Amelia in his shirt, bathed in sunlight, coffee in hand. His cold facade melted, if only for her. Morning, his voice low and husky. Morning, she smiled. Run? Yeah. Wanted to. Start the day right. His eyes never left her. Where's mine? She tipped her chin toward the machine. He poured, then joined her by the window. They clinked cups softly, a quiet ritual of two people learning to slow down together. Below, the city roared. Up here, there was only breath. Meeting with the Japanese partners later, Amelia reminded. I know, but first, Damien set his cup down, voice suddenly grave. First, I have something else to do. Amelia frowned. He took half a step back, inhaled, then dropped to one knee. Damien! Her cup nearly slipped from her hands. Looking up at her, his blue eyes glowed like sunlight on water. This wasn't the icy CEO, nor the polished speaker on stage. This was Damien stripped of walls, just a man, about to say the hardest three words. I thought I'd save this for a fancy dinner, he said slowly. But every time I see you in my white shirt, all the plans seem pointless. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside, a simple, elegant ring that caught the light. Amelia Hart, he said her name like a prayer. Do you remember that ridiculous blind date? I acted cold and said too little. But the truth is, from the very first minutes, I was drawn to you. I walked away from that table, thinking only, how do I meet her again? Her throat tightened. He went on, softer now. And that night, as if fate were teasing me, I walked into a bar. Through the dim lights and loud music, I saw you cornered by two men. I didn't think. I just moved. Not to play hero, but because if I didn't, I'd regret it forever. Memories flashed. Harsh laughter, a hand gripping her arm, then a voice like steel. Let her go. Amelia's eyes stung. Damien reached for her hand. Since then, there's been trouble, misunderstandings, storms. But every time, when I had a choice, I chose you. Today I still do. Tomorrow I will again. And if you'll let me, for every day after, I want to choose you officially forever. Then with a flicker of his familiar mischief, the first time you wore my shirt, it was chaos. This time, it's because you're mine. Amelia laughed through tears, pressing her trembling hand to his face. You arrogant man, but the arrogant man I love. So, say yes, his whisper cracked. Yes. It leapt out of her so quickly it startled even her. She nodded furiously, smiling through tears. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit. Rising, he swept her into his arms, lifting her like that first time years ago when he teased her as a sack of potatoes. Except now, there was no storm, no fear, only laughter and hot coffee in the air. Put me down, she protested weakly. No, Damien grinned, striding across the room. This time I'm carrying you as my fiancé. I'm not a sack of potatoes, she scolded, though her arms looped tight around his neck. No, he winked. You're priceless. He set her on the sofa, kissing her forehead long and firm. When the rush settled, Amelia leaned back, staring at the ring sparkling like it held the city's light. How do we tell people? She asked. Maya first, or she'll explode. He answered so seriously that she burst into laughter. Then the team, then my father, and dinner with your family in Manchester. We'll do it right, calm, steady, like we built Elysium. Amelia nodded, eyes bright. And the honeymoon? Excel sheet of 30 options ready? One option, he deadpanned. Anywhere, as long as it's with you. God, that's so cheesy. She shook her head. Reserved only for you. Her phone buzzed. Maya, video call. The screen filled with her friend's face, scanning like an X-ray. Why are you glowing like that? Wait, is that a ring? Maya shrieked, vanishing for a moment only to reappear, jumping in circles. I told you, blind date duty turned into a lifetime. Boss, thank you for listening to your in-house shipper. Damien leaned into the frame, calm as ever. Thanks for interrupting at just the right time. I'll interrupt forever, brother-in-law, Maya teased. But for now, congratulations. From today, I've got a boss and a boss bride. The call ended. Silence returned. Amelia leaned into Damien's shoulder, looking out at drifting white clouds. Below, a couple posed for engagement photos at Elysium's entrance. Nearby, a child chased bubbles down the path. The city was enormous, but sometimes all it took was two people and a ring to make it feel like home. Are you scared? Damien asked lightly. Yes, Amelia admitted. Scared we'll get so busy we'll forget mornings like this? Forget to look at each other and smile. Then I'll remind you, he promised, with coffee, with shirts, even with picking up your pen when you drop it. Don't bring up drop pens now, she pinched his side, but you can still pick them up. They sat for a long time, their coffee cooling, unnoticed by anyone. When the clock finally nudged them toward work, Amelia rose, buttoned a blazer over his shirt, and grabbed her bag. Damien followed, holding the elevator door open. I'll go first, she teased. Creative director can't be late. Neither can a CEO, he smirked. The mirrored doors closed, reflecting two calm faces, two bright eyes, as if writing a new line together. They didn't know what trials lay ahead, but they knew how they'd face them, by choosing each other every day in the smallest ways. From a blind date meant for someone else, to a rain-soaked night, to a white shirt, to a ring this morning. The elevator opened onto the 28th floor. Footsteps, greetings, and Maya's triumphant, aha, filled the corridor. Amelia glanced back once. Damien nodded, eyes saying, let's go. She smiled, nodding back. Let's go. The ceremony came on a crisp autumn day, not lavish but luminous in its own way. The rooftop garden of Elysium Towers, sunlight pouring through clear glass, white flowers scattered down the aisle. Families, friends, colleagues, even those who once doubted, stood to bless them. Amelia walked in a simple, graceful gown. Damien waited in a black tuxedo. When their eyes met, every distance vanished. At dinner, Damien's longtime friend Marcus raised his glass with a booming laugh. I still can't believe it. One night, Damien called me grumbling, cover a blind date for you. You'll owe me big. And now, he married her. The table roared with laughter. Maya chimed in, told you life's the ultimate plot twist. Blind date for a friend, happy ending for yourself. Amelia hid her face, cheeks burning. Damien only shrugged, eyes shining with quiet joy. He squeezed her hand, whispering just for her. If it was a trap, I'd fall for it again, forever. That night when the guests had gone, they stood together on Elysium's rooftop. The city below glittered like an inverted sky. Amelia leaned against his shoulder, her gown rustling in the breeze. From that absurd blind date, she whispered, I never imagined we'd end up here. Damien smiled, pulling her close. Enemies by chance, lovers by fate. The only kind of destiny I'd never avoid. Her eyes sparkled. From trouble to forever. He lowered his lips to hers in a kiss long and sweet, sealing every trial, every storm, every triumph. The future still stretched unknown. Work would be busy and life would be full of challenges. But they both knew one truth. Together, they could face anything. From a blind date gone wrong to a lifetime gone right. Forever.